Welcome to the Mountain Club podcast, conversations with industry-leading minds, business extraordinaires, creative thinkers, and valued members of Mountain Club. Conversations to empower business, personal, and community growth. We're here to discover what drives our members to connect and what has anchored them to Mountain Club. Jointly hosted by myself and Paddy Klutz, expect powerful delivery, conversation, and genuine home truths. All right, well, welcome to a live edition of the Mountain Club podcast for New Zealand Fashion Week. The conversation tonight moves across several areas that I think define what comes next for fashion in Aotearoa. What it takes to build a resilient ecosystem here, how we lead on sustainability and ethics while navigating the realities of production at scale, the role of storytelling, from the deeply personal to the powerfully collective, and ultimately, where creativity, sustainability, and identity meet. Because that intersection is where the most interesting and enduring work is being done. So let's welcome our panellists this evening. One of New Zealand's most respected stylists, Lou Heller brings decades of experience across editorial, commercial and personal styling. Raised near Taranaki, she has built a reputation for empowering people through mindful, confident dressing, combining a sharp eye for fashion with training as an intuitive therapist. Wanaka's Hamish Acland co-founded Mons Royale in 2009 with his wife Hannah, transforming a passion for merino performance wear into a globally recognised brand, stocked in over 1,000 stores across more than 40 countries. A former pro free skier, Hamish built the brand from the mountains up, achieving B Corp certification in 2023 and championing the case that performance and sustainability are not opposites. Growing up on Bendigo Station, one of Central Otago's pioneering merino farms, Christina Perriam turned a deep love of high country heritage into a luxury fashion brand. Made almost entirely in New Zealand, Perriam is a slow fashion at its most purposeful, timeless, traceable, and rooted in place. And with over 20 years in fashion, Nat Newlands has built a sharp creative reputation. Through her newest venture, Legacy Land, she partners with destination brands, including Sherwood, Cloudy Bay, Airburn, and our own Mountain Club, to create bespoke uniforms and merchandise built with intention, designed not as afterthoughts, but as lasting expression of a brand's identity. This sits alongside her modern women's wear brand, Newlands. As Aotearoa celebrates Fashion Week, it feels like the right moment to have a conversation that goes beyond the runway, thinking about the decisions, the values, the economics, and the identity questions that don't make it into the lookbooks. What does it take to build a resilient, future-fit fashion ecosystem here? New Zealand's industry, it is a genuinely pivotal point. We have extraordinary raw materials, merino that's some of the finest in the world, designers with global ambitions, and a clear green reputation that carries real weight internationally. But we're also grappling with the realities of a small market, rising costs, talent retention, and sustainability standards in Europe that are raising the bar significantly. Our four guests tonight have each built something remarkable and very different. But at this pivotal moment, they share a common conviction that the future of this industry will be defined not just by what we make, but how and why we make it. Creativity, sustainability, and identity. All four of them are working exactly that intersection. So please can we welcome Lou Heller, Hamish Acland, Christina Perriam, and Nat Newlands this evening. I want to start at the beginning, a very good place to start, as Julie Andrews once said, thinking about origin stories and what brought each of you to this moment. Every business on this panel, as I thought about it, has been built from a really deep personal conviction, something that each of you felt was really important. Creativity and identity, they're not add-ons onto a fashion business, but they really are what makes it last. So, Lou, I'd love to start with you. You're really at this intersection between creativity and identity. How did you get started in your role?
Do you want to mean from when I first started the business?
Yeah.
And why it all kind of unfolded to where it is today?
I'd love to hear that.
Okay, I'll try and fast track this very fast. But I always, in my bones, knew from a really young age I was really creative. I wasn't scholastic, so it was really, I struggled at school. And then when I left, I actually met my ex-husband when I was moved down to Christchurch and sort of fell into that whole role of being a mum. But I was actually a florist on the other side of that as well. But I just dreamt of, I had this thing about growing up on a dairy farm, and I had this way that clothing made me feel out of the overalls. It was a dress that, it was a little girl, and it held feeling and emotion that I couldn't get rid of the feeling. It was like the smell of the dress, the everything. It was, and then as time went on, clothing was a way that I expressed myself through things I went with, and I think we all can gravitate and think back to memories of our life, of the clothing that actually made us feel alive, like music or memories, those sorts of things. Fast track into the later stage of my life where I was actually working for someone at the time in her clothing store, and I knew I was meant to be in fashion somehow, but in this stage I was in retail, and she would do these events, and there was one particular event that was going on, and there was alcohol involved and things like that, and there was one woman who was at this event, and she bought a piece of clothing that was identical almost to what she actually had bought from just the season prior. And I went, I was like, didn't you just buy that like the other day? And she said, oh, it's still at home with the tags on. And I just went, bing, there's an issue. I said, to me, you should be wearing that multiple ways. I was like, because that's all I ever knew was when I bought things, it was with intention, and it was like I wear it that way, like through all areas of my life, etc. Anyway, I said to the person at the time, the business owner, I was like, what about if I brought this into because I was really wanting to get into my styling, and she said, don't be stupid, I'd lose money because then people would stop buying. And I was like, okay, that's what's missing. So I then went into people's wardrobes, and I started to get them to understand what they'd been buying, all these things. I could do it multiple ways, teach them how to wear everything. And I just started to see changes and transformations. And then I sort of delved so much more into it. At the time, I was also doing training as a therapist for 3 years. I started to see the crossover effects of the psychological aspect of the reasons we buy, don't buy, what's missing, what's not missing. And then that's kind of probably even led me to where I am now 5 years later, where I have started to delve even deeper into the what's missing and how can I help someone express themselves. And it's taken me all the way back to how I felt as a little girl, which is that emotional memory.
Yeah, that's amazing, isn't it? That actually those kind of seeds are rooted when you're so young, and that feeling, you've carried that the way through.
And that's exactly right. When I deal with clients, there are seeds that get sown as little kids of like, you can't do this, you can't do that, or, and the mental blocks of what can happen that will stop someone in their 40s, 50s from trying something is insane, because it's not their voices that have done it. It's actually been an external voice that's done it. So, it's incredible. I feel lucky every day.
Christina, you also grew up on a farm. And I just wonder, when you were looking at what your parents were doing and the sort of journey they had with merino and with wool, did you imagine that fashion would be in your future, or what were your sort of hopes and dreams, or what did you imagine when you were younger?
It's funny now that I'm obviously a bit older. I've reflected a lot about that. So obviously growing up on a merino sheep station, very privileged to have that life growing up, and always been surrounded by merino wool, amazing. But I had really entrepreneurial parents, which my dad's a real out-of-the-box sort of thinker. So in 1984, he came home one day and said to my mother, I bought you a shop at Terrace. And my mum had like 3 little kids, and she's like, what do I want to shop for at Terrace? And I was like, we're going to sell merino to the people, we're going to
I just got goosebumps.
Create these products, and we're going to sell them to the tourists, and we're going to educate them about merino. So we're going to have this full circular kind of thing going on. So I guess as a little girl, I was always surrounded by that entrepreneurial type behaviour. And so my mum started the merino shop, admittedly not on her own accord. But she really fell in love with the merino shop, and she had it for 30-something years before she passed away 16 years ago. So as a little girl, after school, I would go over and I'd spend time with Mum at the merino shop and help her with the customers. I still remember I designed this little sheep. I drew this little sheep and she put it onto ribbon for me and we sold it at the merino shop. Aww. So I always thought, I'm going to be this, I don't know, I got a bit waylaid with my thinking here. But I went to fashion school at Massey University in Wellington and I studied fashion. But I think at the end of the day, it wasn't really about fashion for me, it was about creativity.
Yeah.
So I'm obviously a real creative person and I've really just started to bring joy back to my life through creativity. For me, it was more about creativity. And my mum used to design knitwear and get knitwear made. This has all just come to me recently, which is strange. But anyway, it must be hormones. But anyway, so this awareness, it's amazing, yeah. So it's come back to me. And she used to design knitwear. And so she had these ladies knitting it and, with graphic, sort of intarsia kind of things. And I was like, I just must have absorbed this so much as a child. And I still remember Mary Avery. She used to call her the Mary Bird. But anyway, she used to come. And I still remember her coming to Bendigo to sell dinosaur jerseys. So this old lady had made these dinosaur jerseys on the machine. And they were hideous. Even I could tell as a 8-year-old, they were hideous. Yeah. But my mum was like, I'll take them all, because she really valued creativity and she really valued these makers that were doing these amazing things. And I mean, the dinosaur jerseys sat there for a long time. They did not sell. But my mum was a really generous, kind person. And I think, being surrounded by these parents who had such different qualities really had an impact on me as a child. And again, didn't realise this till recently. It was inevitable, I guess, that I was going to A, do something with merino and B, do something creativity. And I just didn't realise Mum was that creative. But when I look back, she did her own hand knitting yarns out of merino wool. It all peeled. So she did a rural women's initiative where all the ladies around the area made church kneelers out of the merino of their family history.
Love.
And I went to church the other day. They're all pilling.
Yeah.
But it was
They've lasted a while, though.
It was kind of the initiative. So, I think for me, that's how I became creative, and I really credit my mother. I was sort of crediting my father a lot more in the early days, but I think my mother had a massive impact on me, and I don't think she wanted to be creative, but she became creative, and she loved that space, that shop, and the people that came through.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nat, for you, creativity, you're an artist, you're a designer, you're now working with brands, that whole sort of segue into creativity, what that means for you. How do you think about creativity with those different hats on, or where did that creativity begin for you?
I don't know. I just got really entrenched in your story. No, I was really invested into that. And I love it. But I think in terms of creativity, it all makes sense backwards.
Yeah.
I look at my life and I look at my little career paths and the different places I worked, and it all makes sense when we look backwards. But as we're doing it, we kind of I'm going here and I'm going here and what am I doing? But it's all coming together.
Yeah.
And there's still a long way to go. But that's, I don't know, that kind of helps me when I look back. And I think about, you were saying you love creativity. I like being creative, but I think more than that, I like business and I like people. And so it's kind of, how can I weave in all of those things into what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
And I think also, similar story to yours is, I'm the youngest of 4 children, and so I think Mum and Dad got really over taking me to sport. And I genuinely think, because my other siblings were really sporty, and so when it came to my turn to run the 100 metres in front of the school, everyone's like,
You've done it 3 times before.
Maybe there's another skill. Maybe there's another talent there. And so they really nurtured me to, I would make moccasins in the wool shed, and I would be doing similar crafty things. And Mum and Dad never went, what are you doing that for? That's a bit silly. They were always like, cool. And sometimes I would, I remember wearing these velvet green pedal pushers, and I'd stitch the Christmas tinsel around the bottom.
Aww.
And Mum and Dad great, you're ready, let's go.
I love that.
I think there's a massive piece in that younger formative years into what shapes us as being a bit freer later.
Yeah.
So similar to what you were saying, I think.
You don't have any dinosaurs?
Yeah. Nah, but I did wear some weirds, and I probably still wear weird stuff. Yeah. But, it's that freedom to play with it.
It's freedom, isn't it? Like Lou was saying.
Yeah.
Hamish, your journey, you started off as a free skier, and Mons grew out of not being able to kind of find the stuff you wanted. It's also a business rooted in place. You started over in Wanaka and kind of grew out of the mountains. How did you turn that kind of desire for finding the pieces you wanted into, actually, this is a great business idea. Maybe I'm the guy to do it?
Yeah, it's kind of like when you're sort of casting back. So everyone says you need to have this, core story. So you found something, as I was skiing around the world, I was thinking about brands probably since I was 15.
Yeah.
So I wasn't, it's, you just got to summarize things. And, skiing around the world, that is the story, and that's true. But I think everything before then was, very similar. Like, I'm from a farm, actually. My father was very entrepreneurial, and actually his farmer ended up doing bringing air tags into the country.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then did lambskin gloves under the Lynn River banner, and then did builder's aprons.
Wow.
But very, and I think that's the cool thing. And definitely when you look back, you're like, oh, right, totally makes sense. Like, of course, Dad didn't think it was going to be a big deal if I dropped out of school, because, he dropped out of school and he was great. So, so I had that background, but I definitely didn't want to go down the formal thing. And I just had this, entrepreneurial spirit, and I just needed to find a vehicle.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of different things, set up ski events, was the skier, but I was probably more like a team manager, really good at the commercial stuff and pretty good at the skiing. And I did some stuff in that sort of not-for-profit space, like for the sport.
Yeah.
And I was like, damn, I just want the vehicle. Do you know what I mean? I want, like Rip Curl would come over and do a big event, or Burton. And I was like, come on, how do we do this? And, there was another New Zealand brand, and they just kind of weren't investing in the mountain culture.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's got to be done. So I looked at a bunch of different things, like, should I go into ski bags was one thing, like a bag brand, and make it really light for traveling. But I just kind of keep coming back to, it's kind of crazy, like, can't we just make a merino tee or technical tee that looks cool and I can wear it on the mountain and off? It's got to be so simple. And then...
Was it so simple?
Yeah, it is, right? Like, it is that simple. It's hard, but it is that simple.
Yeah, it's a good distinction to make.
Yeah. And so, you can't switch those two out, but it is that simple.
Yeah. So interesting. For farming families like that. I mean, that, creative, entrepreneurial, watching that firsthand, I think that's super interesting.
We definitely, Mons has attracted that, and there's definitely I would say, there's a hard working and problem solving that you get from innately that you get from growing up on a farm. You do not get to choose if, you don't, right? It's a quick, easy thing, but animals need to be fed. It doesn't matter what the weather is. There is just a totally different attitude.
There's a lot of jobs, eh?
Yeah,
like a lot of jobs.
And that's a very distinctive New Zealand thing, as you say, right?
Yeah.
What do you think then that brings to kind of, when people think about brand New Zealand, or what it means for a business to be New Zealand based, what do you think that brings to it then, that sort of component? What makes a New Zealand brand distinctive that you found on the world stage, Hamish?
Well, I think that's the cliches, right? When you think about a New Zealand brand, it's comes from a land of a lot of sheep on an island at the bottom of the world that is small, so it's, distinct. But I think some of the other attributes that really travel is Kiwis, and I go back to my ski career. I could hang out with the Frenchies or the Americans, right? We're kind of neutral, and that's an interesting space to be. If you want to be a global brand and you grow up in one of these others, and that's gone from everyone kind of going brand-centric, we're going back to this sort of nationality-centric, and there's positives to that, but there's negatives, right? There's some real negatives in that sort of nationalistic space. Do you look like me or not? And I think New Zealand's got to find that space, which I think is, one, neutral, but it's the host, right? If someone comes down here, we're like, wow,
we'll look after you.
You know, like, come in. And so I think that's a really, a cool part of it. And then, how that gets expressed and stuff. I think, we've got so many different things from, a space rocket to, all of these different things within New Zealand. So I think depending on the thing, how that shows up.
Yeah. Thinking about your journey and on the global sort of scale and thinking about sustainability more broadly, Christina, you talked a little bit about this, thinking about, I guess, how we're perceived in the world, so how people perceive New Zealand, what our image is as a country, but also thinking about how we're navigating, when we're thinking about sustainability at scale, what that looks like for a country that's the size of ours. Christina, most things are made here in New Zealand, which is really unusual at scale. What are the challenges that sometimes that brings, and what are the benefits to you, or the reasons why you've chosen to do that?
It's a really good question. So a lot of our customers are tourists. Based, especially through Terrace. So we have Terrace is this tiny little village, but it's incredible the amount of people that come. When Mum passed away and she left me her business, I was just blown away. So I think for us, it's about a sense of place and provenance. I think with AI coming through, that's even more important today, is that we're going to have like a lot of fakeness and a lot of confusion in brands, I think. So I really think that doubling down on our sense of place, if you took Perriam out of Central Otago, it doesn't have the same authenticity. And I think sustainability, I mean, that's a big topic, sustainability. But for us, we really are determined so longevity is sustainability to us. Yes, it's really great that it's made from a natural fibre that's biodegradable, renewable, all those great things that merino is. It's great that it's made by New Zealand makers because we can guarantee that it's made really well. You'll see a lot of fast fashion starting to do merino and cashmere and stuff like that, but does it last 5 to 10 years in your wardrobe? And a big thing with us at Perriam is we design pieces that are not trend-driven, so they are designed to last for a long time. So hopefully in 10 years when you bring out your striped merino tee, it'll look as good as gold, as long as you protected it from moths. And it'll be still relevant in your wardrobe. So I think longevity and equals sustainability for us. We're a small boutique brand, so we are New Zealand made, which comes with its challenges. There's a lot of challenges. It's really expensive to make in New Zealand. I don't think the consumer really appreciates how much it costs. But we have looked at making offshore. We've done all that. But for us, I would say probably 80% of our customers are tourists, and they're really dead set on buying New Zealand made. And if we went offshore, our brand would dilute so badly. So we've really got to focus on our target market, which is tourists. So, for us, it's so important to have that sense of place, the merinos on the hill, and to educate the consumer about why it costs a lot to buy a Perriam piece. But it's value and price aren't the same thing.
No.
I mean, you could buy something from a fast fashion brand, and on average, people wear their fast fashion piece 3 times. So if you had a Perriam piece, yes, it might cost you $400, but if you've worn it over 5-10 years, your cost per wear is actually really good. So I think for us, our challenge is educating people about why you should pay more for a really good product than a throwaway product like fast fashion.
Lou, that must be a conversation that you often have with people too, thinking about, not, the idea of sort of being really heavily trend led and people just buying stuff because they kind of want to look like everybody else. How do you navigate those kind of conversations with
I guess,
clients?
First of all, there's always going to be an element with New Zealanders and Kiwis that if they don't know the brand, they're very unsure. Or if it has a stigma about it, there's the snobbery that can happen. And that can be really hard when you've got these incredible brands that have got these pieces that have got, like Christina said, the longevity. Yeah. That to me is sustainability. When you buy well and then you can wear it multiple ways for the years, it doesn't always mean about the cost as such, but when you buy well, and there's a big difference. So to me, that is sustainability. And fast fashion is, it doesn't mean that it's flown made wherever. It actually is about how fast it's moving through the wardrobe. But at the same time too, things, for a brand to evolve and to last, it has to have, there's an elements where it has to have a bit of street cred, and that's what I deal with, I guess, is where women or males, I've got male clients too, they get to the point where it gets lost, or they lose the feel, they don't know where to start or how to start, because they go through stages of life and they leave the gap, and then you get to this end of the gap and they're like, I don't even know where to begin. But sometimes they just need those really amazing core little pieces, the puzzle pieces as I call them, to build from. But they've got to know and understand their personal style, and that to me is sustainability. Because when you actually really learn your personal style and that core essence of you fast track being able to walk through stores, being overwhelmed. You can walk still into, if your budget requires it, into a high street, and you know exactly what you to find to a degree, but you're not out there hunting and looking and searching. You lose that need of the want. And I think to me that's more sustainable when you're actually not out there with that need and the want of the hunt, because that becomes down to a dopamine fix. So that's all the stuff that I'm trying to re-navigate and getting people right back to that kind of core part of what style actually is. And it's just a personal thing. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It just means it's about that bravery, the trying, and looking beyond just those three same places that you've always done for your whole life, which can happen. And that's a very Kiwi mentality. And I think there's a fear of standing out, which I think we're slowly getting and moving through faster and faster. But it's been amazing watching brands, and brands do come and go. And that's what's really sad. I'm a massive advocate for retail. People often think, are you sure? But I am, I take clients shopping all the time, but I'm also teaching them how to shop properly. And there's a big difference between shopping and playing, and that's all trying even, so there's you then start to relook at everything completely different to what you've ever known before. And to me, that's that magical kind of like sweet spot.
The sweet spot.
Yeah.
Nat, with Legacy Land, you're kind of almost doing for brands what Lou is doing for individuals, thinking about...
Can I just say something on this last topic? Just a wee thought, just like an earlier step.
Yeah.
Just to shake it up a bit. I think it's the duty of the designers to actually create good products. Yeah. So I feel this is really important for us. It's like, if we're going to put some things out, let's make them really considered instead of going, okay, we need to fill 50 SKUs in this range, and we don't really believe in that, but we'll just put it in and someone might order it or not. It's like, I actually think that first piece of that sustainability is actually up to the designers to be like, let's not put shitty things out there that don't fit well, that don't function well, and actually they might be synthetic or whatever, or they might last 3 wears. I think that first piece is a massive bit down to the designers, because we don't need more. There's so much out there. There's so much product already. It's deeply saturated. I think that piece. So I was just thinking when you were talking.
I worry about my kids for that exact reason, because they're now showing so much. And social media is showing them only so much by someone famous wearing something.
But that little first entry bit needs to be edited.
I agree.
Sorry, and back to the other question.
It's a great point.
Instead of up to the consumer, it's like, let's make it easier for the consumer and be like, hey, cool, we've just got, and that's what we do with our edits. We just do 10 pieces. And we're like, cool, this is all we're showing, because we absolutely believe in all of these.
Yes.
That you'll have them for 10 years, they feel really good, they're made well.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And not left with dead stock.
Yeah. Dinosaurs.
Yeah,
you don't have
dinosaurs. I love them.
just because it was a cool
Poor old
story.
dinosaur.
Yeah.
It's like the time and place for them.
That's all I wanted to say. You call the dead stock dinosaurs.
It'll be like green and purple. Sorry, and that other question.
No, but it kind of feeds back to that. Like, when you're working with a brand, so you have your own brand as a designer.
Yes.
But when you're then working with a brand, thinking about what their values and their purpose are, you're sort of extracting almost the way that Lou is trying to help people feel about themselves. You're creating something. We think about legacy. Legacy is a great name. Thinking about that permanence, that sustainability.
We're supporting their legacy.
Yeah.
So that's actually why it's called Legacy Land, because it's a place they come to that we actually go, we can support your brand to show up in its best way. So it's like crafted well. It's got, it's functional. A big thing for us in a space that we saw was like events. And so you go to the event, you get your bag, you got your T-shirt and you got your things. Well, you know it, right? Yeah. And you get home and you're like, oh, that T-shirt's nasty. Yeah. And then you don't wear it. So they've ticked the box. They've gone, yep, we've done our merch, fantastic. But it's like, you actually want like keepsakes that people go, I love that T-shirt. I've worn it out. It's got holes in it. That was a cool event, know. So it like brings the memory with you, but it also supports the brand because kind of there's this little subconscious thing where they go, cool product, perform really well.
Yeah.
And that's really important to me, back to that ethos of like, if we're going to do it, let's do it well.
Yeah.
And I geek out on functionality a lot, especially when you get in the car and you can't drive because you love the jacket.
Yeah.
But the sleeves are
too
quite
tight.
But lots of things like that. So even, you've got a great fabric, but it catches fluff. And I'm like, this is not, so all of that stuff I quite enjoy. I think that's part of that creative problem solving space.
Yeah.
So how can we make it work better? Because everybody needs the product, but if we want to put it out in the world, let's not make it landfill.
And we all have those things probably at the back of our wardrobes that we're like, oh, I really like that, but it's really static. Or it always does this, or I get fluff all over everything. I have
this little rule when I buy something new. It's really random, and my kids definitely pick up on it. So I wear that thing for 4 or 5 days in a row.
Yeah.
But I also, so I'm testing it. I'm kind of like product testing. How well can I wear this? Can I wear it with something else? And Lou, you can probably relate to this. So it'd be like, cool, I might wear this. I might roll up the pants, or I might wear a blazer or a T-shirt just to see actually if it deserves its space in the wardrobe and if I can wear it a few different ways. And I will, now that I've told you, you'll see me at school and you'll be like, oh, you got that on again. But it's a really good way to be like, does this deserve a position?
In my wardrobe.
Yeah, in my wardrobe.
I love that. And probably there are those brands that you think, no, their stuff always performs well.
Yeah.
And, 100%. That's as a designer what you're thinking about for your brand too.
Totally.
Yeah. You touched, Christina, on AI, and I think that's a really interesting topic for lots of us in all walks of life and all different sectors. But you touched on something really beautiful. You were talking about how people really want to have that authenticity, and that has become really important, and place and being rooted in place, because there's so much fakeness around that actually having something real and authentic becomes so important. Have you, I suppose, how have you kind of seen that unfolding? Would any of you ever think about using AI in your business? Is that, are there kind of ways that you think actually, well, exactly. But I guess, yes.
It makes dysfunctional functional for some people. But.
Yeah. So it's where sort of for all of you, and it'll be different for all of your businesses, but figuring out what the role is versus where is the kind of creativity being sort of sucked away.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of us probably use AI as a tool.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like the internet.
Yeah, it makes our everyday life easy. I mean, I was sending all our garments away to get ghost mannequined in Auckland. It was costing me $3,000. I can put a picture of the model wearing the garment and I'll return it in 1 minute.
Yeah.
So I think there is definitely places for AI, and it's making our jobs a lot easier. And sadly, it might make people's jobs redundant. It's definitely an interesting time that we're living in, for sure. So I think AI is, but I think AI can't breed creativity.
No.
And I think that's the thing. And I've been thinking a lot about AI lately, about how people still like the personal element. And I think even more so as AI comes in.
Yeah.
We're going to be doing a lot of stuff on online and on AI that people are going to seek provenance, community.
Yeah.
It's going to be really important.
Yeah.
So I think the brands that really lean into, a sense of place and that kind of bringing community together, I think they're the brands that will stay. I mean, we just had a Huffer this week, using the model that was very similar to their model. We're going to see a lot of that sort of stuff coming up, and now everyone's scrambling, trying to get sort of guidelines in and stuff like that. So I think it's a really interesting time for business and fashion particularly. So, I think AI has a place, and it's amazing. It's got some real benefits, but I do think for brands to stand out, because everyone's going to become very similar.
Very homogenous.
It's very homogenous because no one's going to have they're all just going to be the same sort of thing, and we're so lucky in New Zealand that we have a sense of place and a story to tell. And I think brands that lean into that are going to do really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that will set New Zealand apart, actually? Like a bit like you were saying earlier, Hamish, about being, what New Zealand's role is. In a way, you can kind of be with everyone. There's this sort of perception or this way that New Zealand is perceived. Do you actually think that is going to put New Zealand fashion and creativity kind of head and shoulders above other places?
Yeah, that's maybe too big a question. I think, just to come back to creativity, so a lot of things become a little bit easier, but it also becomes a little bit softer, and we all understand that. And I think if we come back to we're talking about how do you make something that's really worthwhile and really valuable, I don't think asking AI that is going to deliver that. I don't think working out your distinctiveness to the world is going to be through that, because you're asking something in a fairly general, it's taking a really wide thing and it's just going to come back to you. And so is everyone else, right? So I think from my point of view, I think it's makes a bunch of things easier. Like I find it really good for some things, different team, and there'll be a lot of things that'll save a bunch of costs, whatever. But distinctiveness is not going to come from it.
No.
The competitive advantage, someone might have that as for 3 months, and then someone else has photoshopped their thing the same way, and so that's gone. So it's not that. It's, and I think people have got to realise it's not the competitive advantage. That's got to come from a different place, and I think that's just like New Zealand. What is, we call it, it's like a value internal for us, but it's like downside up. So all these negative things, these negative connotations that we have, and how do you flip them around the other way to be an advantage?
Yeah.
And I think that's just, a principle you kind of have to take when you're at the bottom of the world and 5 million, people, how many? Does that mean?
I love that. And that feeling of community too, right? That doesn't come through the artificial, or you talked about that, thinking about your mum's shop and terrace, and actually the sense of community, you can't fake that. That's what I think people are really seeking out too. And that kind of leans into thinking about collaboration, I think, too. We've brought the four of you together. You're all doing different things, but thinking about what good collaboration looks like in this space too, and thinking about what that looks like for New Zealand fashion. Are there some examples that you could share with us today about collaborations you're really excited about? Lou, I know you've launched a new collaboration with Untouched World, but other collaborations or ways you've seen it work really well, where actually when the two of you come together, or two organisations come together, it's so much more powerful. Hamish, you'll have this with athletes and that sort of thing too. But I guess what makes a really wonderful collaboration? What makes a great collaboration?
It's a good question. For me, it's always alignment. When you're working with people, brands, any sort of situation, even when I'm doing, I had a meeting this morning with a law firm who want me to come up and do a big speak for about 50 women. And to me, it's in a sense of community. You're bringing together like-minded people, but things flourish because you get connections, you get conversations, you get awareness, you get education, you get all of these things that allow others to grow. And I think we as Kiwis, we do actually have a real give it a go kind of attitude through solutions, and I think that's what is a really beautiful thing to be able to do when you're collaborating, even with me doing this with Untouched World. For me, it was seeing what was missing. I mean, even being asked in the first place to do it was an incredible thing I never expected. But at the same time, I went straight to the point of, like when my business first started, what I felt was missing. And just over the time, I think I've just been able to see when you work with really amazing like-minded businesses, people, even with Mountain Club, you get these incredible things that come together, and there's nothing really better than being in a room full of people where you can share your experiences to help another person. And that's all I do on a daily basis, is being able to, I feel like, collaborate even with my clients, because you get to hear them, you get to hear their stories, and you get to be able to grow yourself, and I think the things that I've learned, and even in business over the last 5 years, is, and I think I said this to you today, it's about that adversity that we have to go through at times, because it means you've got to get uncomfortable. But when you do get uncomfortable, on the other side of it is the most amazing magical optimism that you never would ever experience. And that is just about like opportunities, even, saying the yes, doing the thing, and that's what's really amazing about anything in business, and so many businesses can get left behind because they don't take that chance or leap, or seeing the solution or the gaps, or they're afraid. And you just have to kind of sort of see the bigger picture at times, and sort of stepping onto not the outside, but being on it, not in it. And I think that's what's really hard when you do have these we're all very creative people, but we've grown these businesses on such different aspects in the spectrum. But on the flip side of it is we're all doing the same thing. Yeah. We're all trying to help, educate, provide what's missing, in ways that we can give service to people, and I think that's the really amazing part of, I kind of sit and kind of go, God, I was not a little stylist, but do you know what I mean? I just started as that, but now being in a position where I've been able to build a brand that's really, truly helped people transform, heal, even, I know we've only done a little bit of work together, but just seeing your change and the way that you've embraced it and kind of flown with even the way you see things now is so different, and I think that's what I love seeing, is how brands can come together and make things better. And I think that's what essentially it's all about.
Anyone else want to jump in on
collaboration? I reckon I'm keen for Christina to jump in here. Like, I think if you were to go really big picture for New Zealand, and, Mons Royale, we've made a name on it, right? So we've created let's say, a visual identity, right, that people can see. And we talk about, like, say, sewing energy into everything we do. And you think about it like a really cool ski graph. You're like, I just want to keep that ski because of the graphic and what it means. You can see them in the clothing. And then on this deeper thing, and I think New Zealand at a competitive advantage is that we've got this green image. I would say. And then we've got this part which is, say, wool. And I think the interesting thing is right now, so in September, well, pretty soon, the EU law, you've got this whole transparency and around green claims, all of that's coming. So the interesting thing is having a narrow supply chain, which would have been seen as a disadvantage previously, is now kind of advantage, being really small and, and having they call it collaboration, but from brand all the way back to source. Where else is that happening? If you think about like an apparel brand, and Lulu's just been sort of taken over the coals a little bit, but where does that legging come from? Does the oil come from Russia? Where does it come from? Iran? Where does it come from? So that is so, that cannot be the story for the majority of brands, the ingredient. And I think that's to me, that's the biggest collaboration. And there's a bunch of this going on in New Zealand. Like, how do we connect farm, and we're all from the farm, how do you connect that, create this value that goes all the way through? And I think the reality is that's coming into New Zealand's favour.
Yeah.
And I think next decade is going to show, if we can link those two things together, it's going to be great for the brand, but also great for the farm and, the steps on the way through.
Yeah.
So collaboration, we normally collaborate with other wool brands because I want to give them profile, because I'm really passionate about the wool industry in New Zealand, not just merino wool. Like, we collaborated with Woolfie, and they're making slipper type things out of wool. And the reason I do that is I want to give these smaller brands profile, because the more that we can give these brands reach means that more people will support wool in New Zealand. And to me, so we literally collaborate with other wool brands, to be honest. We did deer teddies, like a little teddy, Dunstan deer, because it's giving them exposure, and we get exposure through their socials and stuff like that. And I think it's a nice kind of hug too. This is us supporting other wool brands. And so, for us, for the Perriam brand, we're all about supporting other brands. And you meet really cool people, you meet creative people, and it's just a really nice synergy. So that's kind of what I'd say about our collaborations.
Yeah. And that piece about on the kind of global stage too, and thinking about the EU, and actually that advantage of being able to say, I know the farmer.
Totally.
I know where the sheep were raised. That's huge.
It's going to become even more important as we go through this crazy world.
Yeah. What about for people just starting out in the industry and thinking about fashion? We know that they're or creative. How do we? It sounds to me like we're at this moment. You were talking about the opportunities, the exciting opportunities for New Zealand, actually. How do we encourage people to be able to take those opportunities?
I think, and I was just on probably the thing that I do, and I think once you're in this space, be it entrepreneurship or, I think in call it fashion. We don't really call it fashion, but, apparel. But is people connect in different things. And I think that's the danger of AI. Everyone's it's so much easier right now to start a brand. You can start a brand can move into a new category like that. It's seamless. It's all the friction is gone.
Yeah.
So you've got to come back to what is, and so it becomes easier doesn't mean it becomes more meaningful or, more purposeful. So just because you can just doesn't mean you should. And because everyone else is going to do it, it's cutting up lots of little bits, which it creates this competitive churn at the startup ecosystem. So my thing is it's got to be really distinct and big. And that kind of, I think that's what, so when we started Mons, it was to be a global brand from day one, because we knew that New Zealand wouldn't sustain and we wouldn't be able to kind of deliver on the mission. And I think that meant that New Zealand wasn't the market. People were like, oh, you should do this. And we're like, no, we're doing this. And I think that's that's my bit of advice, because people go, oh, I'm going to do this. And you're like, well, that's the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But everyone else can do it. So what's the hardest thing? What's what no one else is going to do? And how does that going to bring value? And then how do you get it to the next step?
Yeah. I love that. Do the hardest thing. I mean, Lou was talking about adversity before, actually, and that's the difference. That's the distinction.
I think the brands that are really standing out at the moment are disruptive.
Yeah.
I don't know about any of you, but I feel quite jaded by the whole people striving for a perception of I want to be like this woman, or that there is all tired, everyone's over it. So I think the ones that are actually leading with really strong art direction and being disruptive and being a bit messy and kind of shaking it up a bit will be the ones, because as you say, it's super saturated with everyone, rinse and repeat. All of that stuff's easy. But what that AI space is creating, it's giving us more time to work on creative direction because this here is much more formulated. We can do spreadsheets, and like fashion is very in a cycle. So we have the same things we have to do all the time, several times a year. So this space here is allowing more creativities, but if that's used in the right way, this is where this magic can be made, I believe.
There's space in a way.
Yeah, and
created.
I think it's disruptive beauty. Like, it's still beautiful, but I think it needs to be kind of just a bit wild because it's all boring.
It's got to be distinctive.
Yeah, it's all quite habitual, you know?
Yeah. So be distinctive, be disruptive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and find those spaces that actually might be hard, but they're not the same old.
I think too with the AI aspect, it's actually making people crave nostalgia. And I think that's the sweet spot too, is being able to lean into those little areas of what makes us about the fashion we've had all those years ago, or what makes us memorable, what parts of it can we make into the future, or street cred, or whatever that is, because there's those little wee areas, and that is where you see the light bulbs come off and the creativity just fires off, like what I was talking to you about today, you know. And I think that's the exciting part. It's like, don't sleep on those little light bulbs. Like, take action, dream big, go bigger. And you never know where you're going to go. Like, there's no reason, if there's no one to hold you back, you can't be held back.
Yeah, Hamish, I loved your, from the beginning, you had that big vision, that you had that big vision and you held to your vision. I think that's really important to remember, not to dilute down or water down what you're really there to do, and to have that intention and that intentionality like you've all talked about. I'm sure there's a few questions in the room, but I just want to thank all of our panellists here this evening. You've done a wonderful job of sharing with us. I know there'll be lots more that we could go on to talk about, but thank you so much for joining us for our live panel discussion. Thank you. Big round of applause to all of our panellists. Mountain Club is Queenstown's global members club, the driving force for connection, experience and growth. We're here to do cool stuff with cool people. Become a member today.